Hello, and welcome to the second session of today's webinar, Ready, Set, Tax Prep. My name is Kristen Feierabend, and I am the Program Associate here at the Aspen Institute Community Strategies Group. And today's webinar was designed with the Rural Family Economic Success, or RuFES, Action Network in mind. RuFES is a collection of over 1,300 individuals across the U.S. who are working to improve the livelihoods of rural families. So this webinar is open to anyone in the RuFES Action Network, as well as anyone else who's interested in this work. If you'd like to learn more about the RuFES network or to join it, you can visit our website. As of this morning, about 70 people had registered for this webinar, and some of those were in groups, so there are actually more people watching. This webinar and the first session before it are being recorded and will be posted online, so you'll be able to watch it later or share it with colleagues who are interested. And I want to take a moment to thank the Annie E. Casey Foundation for their generous support of the RuFES network and today's webinar. So today's topic is the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit, one of the most popular and effective strategies that rural communities use to promote family economic success. During the first session, which we just wrapped up, we talked about some EITC and CTC program basics. And in this session, we're going to do a little recap of that for those of you who may have missed the first session. And then we're going to hear some stories from the field from Kentucky and in Michigan. So today's webinar is based on the RuFES framework, which is built on 3 family-focused goals: earn it, keep it, and grow it. So helping families earn a better living, keep more of what they earn, and grow their assets over time. Today, in particular, we're focused on the keep it goal, so helping families have access to and making good choices that safeguard their family income and lower the cost of living so that they can live stable and predictable financial lives. The EITC targets these 3 goals that you see on your screen. So helping families access affordable and reliable financial services, so things like free tax prep that makes it safer for people to do that. Families need to file their tax returns annually, so helping them be able to do that, and then also helping families secure tax benefits that they qualify for, like the EITC and the child tax credit. So a few notes on participation. Right now, everyone is on mute, so to cut down on background noise. If you have a clarifying question during the presentation, if someone's saying something you just don't understand, please type your question in the question box on your control panel. Janet or I will see your question and find a time to pose them to the presenter. If you have a more cosmic question, a little bit broader, or want to dig more deeply into a subject, if you could hold those questions till the end of the presentation, we'll have about 20 minutes or so for some question and answer time. And you'll be able to raise your hand and speak with us directly. So today we have 3 speakers. First is my colleague Janet Topolsky, the director of the Community Strategies Group. She's just going to do a quick recap on what EITC and CTC are. Vicki Johnson from Kentucky will share what they're doing, some innovative strategies for EITC, and Ross Yednock in Michigan. So with that, I will pass it over to Janet to get us started.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to those of you. I feel like, you know, like one of those football games when, where people are joining us now from the West Coast. So some of you have just joined us and didn't participate in the first hour, and some of you did participate in the first hour. So for those of you who didn't, I'm just going to do a quick, not as much as I said the first hour, so don't be afraid, those of you who were in the first hour. I'm going to do a quick recap on what EITC and CTC are. So to remember, the Earned Income Tax Credit is a refundable tax credit. That's a federal tax credit for low-income working families that rewards work. If people work but they don't make a lot of money, they can file with their taxes and earn income tax credit return or a form and get a refund for their families. The EITC was first enacted in 1975 under President Ford. President Reagan expanded it a lot, as have subsequent presidents. So there's a lot of bipartisan support for it, which is actually quite important now as we're facing both sequestration as well as the expiration of some of the current federal provisions related to EITC and CTC. And those of you who are interested in that should be in touch with the National Community Tax Coalition, and we'll give you some of those resources later. And you can keep in touch with what's going on with the federal sort of limits on EITC and CTC. It is the largest anti-poverty program in America. It's larger than food stamps. It's larger than welfare, also known as temporary assistance for needy families. So it's actually incredibly important. And because people who get their income tax returns who don't earn a lot of money tend to spend their money locally, it's actually really important to community and economic development in rural communities especially. How it works is individuals or families can file for the tax credit. There are certain income limits. In other words, you have to make under a certain amount of money in order to be able to file for the tax credit. And if you're interested in that information and didn't participate in our first hour, you can. We'll send you the link for the first hour, and you'll get all of that news. Roxy Kane from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities shared all that with us earlier. So individuals or families can file for it with or without children. If they qualify for it, they will get a refund in the amount of the tax credit. It can be worth up to $5,891 for a working family with 3 or more children. And if you just find out about it, that you qualify for it this year and you never filed for it before, you can go back and file an amendment for up to 3 years, and so it can be worth a great amount for a low-income family. Along with the earned income tax credit, there's the child tax credit, another refundable tax credit that is worth up to $1,000 for each dependent child under the age of 17 within a family. So you put all this together and it adds up to real money for a low-income working family. These credits make a great deal of difference to increasing family economic success for low-income families. They lift millions of people out of poverty every year. They make work more lucrative than welfare. They actually provide an incentive to work when you get right down to it. They help families and parents meet the basic needs of their children. There is now research that shows that families that receive EITC and child tax credits, actually the children in those families go on to perform better in school and to increase their working hours as well as their earnings when they become adults. And as I mentioned a minute or two ago, when low-income families get these returns, they tend to spend them locally. There's a multiplier effect that really helps all the businesses in the community where they spend that money. So it really pumps a lot of money into local economies, especially rural economies. So what people do to help with the EITC and CTC on the ground who really want to have more of their rural low-income families take advantage of this is to have campaigns to really promote knowledge about it. That's one thing that rural actors can do. Another thing you can do is to actually set up a program or to connect to a program. And a lot of these programs are called VITA programs, volunteer income tax assistance programs, or sites, where you actually have local volunteers help low-income families file their taxes, charge nothing for that service. And these are called VITA sites, and both of our presenters are going to talk a lot about VITA sites. And then really when you get a group of people together and help them file taxes, you can actually use that as an opportunity to help them learn about other things that might help them grow assets. Financial education, using some of the return to build up emergency savings or to buy savings bonds and other asset building activities. So with that, we're now going to hear stories. Every year we try to do an update on EITC and focus on rural EITC programs. And besides doing the introduction, we always like to feature a few stories, and we try to do different stories every year. So if you're looking for additional stories, you can go back and look at some of our webinars from years past, which are available on the website rufes.org. But we're going to hear from two presenters today about what they're doing in their states. And I'll turn it back to Kristen